Today, we're cracking open a case file that Ed and Lorraine Warren themselves called one of the most terrifying they ever faced, the Donovan family haunting. It all started with a lonely teenager just looking for a friend, and it ended in a full-blown war with a demonic force. So, let's get into it.
This quote, it just perfectly sets the stage, doesn't it? It's this chilling idea that behind the most normal-looking front door, the most unimaginable horrors could be waiting. And for the Donovan family, that nightmare was about to become very, very real.
And our story begins, like so many of these stories do, in a totally ordinary house, a place that was supposed to be a new beginning, But it had no idea what kind of darkness was just brewing under the surface.
So let's meet the Donovans. You've got Ted, Ellen, their 19-year-old daughter Patty, and her little brother. They'd just moved into this new house, and for the first couple of months, everything was great. Life was just normal, exactly what they wanted.
But, under that surface of normalcy, Patty was really struggling. She was having a hard time fitting in, feeling pretty isolated and alone. And that feeling, well, that's what would push her to make a decision that would change everything. She was just desperate for a connection, for a friend. And so she brought home what she thought was just a harmless game. But it wasn't a game. It was an invitation. And she had no idea what she was inviting into her home.
And this, right here, this is the moment everything pivots. Patty's simple search for a friend, well, it ended up opening a door that should have stayed locked forever.
Now, what's really clever and kind of sinister is how this thing gained her trust. It didn't start with terror. Oh no, it started with charm. It told her it was a teenage boy, just like her. It called her beautiful, made her feel special, and even spelled out the word boyfriend. For a lonely girl, this was everything she thought she wanted.
But then one day, her curiosity got the best of her. She asked her new friend to show itself. The response was immediate. The lights in her room just flickered like crazy, but for the very first time, the planchette on the board stayed perfectly still. The game was over, and the real horror was about to begin.
From that moment on, life for the Donovan family just completely descended into a living nightmare. The force that Patty had invited in, it wasn't hiding anymore.
And the escalation was terrifyingly fast. First, it was loud knocking sounds coming from inside the walls. Then pictures started flying off their hooks, deep scratches appearing out of nowhere. Soon after that, this horrible, overpowering smell of sulfur and something rotting filled the house. And then came the peak of the terror. A thick red liquid that looked exactly like blood started pouring out of every single faucet.
And it all came to a violent head on one specific night, March 31st, 1974. This was the night the entity decided to show them its true power.
Just try to imagine this. The family is sitting there trying to watch TV when suddenly a huge, heavy dresser lifts off the floor and starts spinning in the air. Chairs, cables, pictures, everything is flying around them as this massive black shadow just consumes the walls. They ran out of the house in complete terror, but here's the thing. It didn't matter. The haunting followed them. There was nowhere to run.
Their lives were just in absolute shambles. With no idea where to turn, they made one last, desperate call for help to Ed and Lorraine Warren.
The second the Warrens walked into that house, they knew something was seriously wrong. They described the air as suffocating. Ed, ever the investigator, does this simple test. He knocks twice on a wall. And immediately, two loud knocks echo back from within the wall. Okay, so it's intelligent, and it was watching them.
The Warrens realized pretty quickly this wasn't just a typical haunting, some lost spirit tied to a house. This was what they called an infestation, a non-human demonic entity, and its goal wasn't just to scare people, it was to cause real harm. And the most crucial part, it wasn't attached to the house, it was attached to a person. And there it is, the horrifying truth right from Lorraine Warren herself. The reason the entity followed the family to a hotel was because it was never about the house. It was about them. Patty had invited it in, and this thing had latched onto her like a parasite.
So now they knew what they were dealing with. And the Warrens knew there was only one way to save this family. It was the most dangerous option imaginable, but it was their only hope.
A priest was called in, and the rite of exorcism began. And the entity's reaction? It was immediate, and it was violent. The house didn't just shake, it literally erupted into a war zone.
First, the temperature just plummeted. The room became ice cold in a matter of seconds. This supernatural chill just filled the air.
Then, the walls themselves started to tremble violently, and with a deafening crash, every single window in the house shattered at the exact same time.
And in the middle of all this chaos, the true horror was revealed. Patty herself was lifted into the air as this black shadow seemed to pour into her, and her eyes began to glow a terrifying fiery red. As the priest kept going with the prayers, her body was hurled a full 5 feet across the room with unbelievable force, slamming into a wall before she just collapsed, totally unconscious. And then, just like that, it was over. Complete and total silence fell over the house. That horrible smell was gone. When they turned on the faucets, clean water came out, and when Patty finally woke up, the demonic presence was gone. She was herself again. The nightmare had finally ended.
The Donovan family survived, but they were, of course, forever changed. Their story is just this chilling warning about the dangers that can hide behind something that seems so innocent, like a game. And it leaves us with one final unsettling question. Some doors are meant to stay closed forever. But if you found one, could you really resist the temptation to see what's on the other side?